You know, we're always told that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money. But what if that's actually a trap? What if that constant hunt for more financial information is the very thing holding you back from building wealth? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating puzzle, how knowing more can sometimes mean you end up with less.
Okay, so to get a handle on this, let's picture two investors. Over on the left, you've got the knowledgeable investor. This person reads all the books, gobbles up financial news, and feels like a real expert. But their portfolio? It's just a mess of constant changes, and honestly, their wealth is barely growing. Then, on the right, you have the consistent investor. They picked a super simple plan years ago, put their savings on autopilot, and pretty much tuned out all the noise. And quietly, almost boringly, they're building some serious wealth.
So which one do you think actually comes out on top? And more importantly, why does the person who seems to know less end up doing so much better? The answer, well, it's totally counterintuitive, and it shines a light on a psychological trap that gets almost all of us.
All right, first up, let's talk about the external problem, what I'm calling the information advantage trap. This is where what feels like our greatest strength, having unlimited access to information, actually becomes our biggest weakness.
I mean, just think about it for a second. At any given moment, your phone can unleash this avalanche of financial content. You've got stock predictions, can't miss new strategies, dire economic forecasts, literally thousands of experts all shouting conflicting advice. It feels like we have an advantage, but this fire hose of info, our brains just aren't built for it.
What this does is it triggers a psychological state called decision overload. When you're staring at way too many convincing options, index funds, real estate, crypto, individual stocks, it feels almost impossible to just commit. So you either freeze up, constantly second-guessing the path you're on, or maybe even worse, you never start at all.
But here's the thing. This isn't just about what's out there. The really fascinating part is what's happening inside our own heads. It's basically a biological trap. Let's dig into your brain's financial illusion.
So you got to remember, our brains are basically running on ancient hardware. They evolved back when new information, like, hey, there's a new berry bush over there, was critical for survival. So when we learn something new, our brain rewards us with this little hit of a feel-good chemical called dopamine. It's the brain's way of saying, nice job, you're making progress.
Now, in our world today, this creates a really dangerous feedback loop. You watch a video about some new investing strategy. Your brain releases that dopamine, and you get this powerful illusion of progress. You feel productive, you feel smarter. But, and this is the key, your actual financial behavior hasn't changed one bit. You didn't invest a dime, but your brain rewarded you as if you did.
And all of this brings us right to the heart of the problem, the compounding paradox. This is where we see why that endless search for the perfect or best strategy is so incredibly destructive to building real wealth.
Okay, if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. The goal of investing is not to find the perfect strategy. It's to find a good enough strategy and then have the discipline to stick with it year after year after year. Consistency, that is the real superpower.
Because here is the brutal, honest-to-goodness truth. Wealth is built by compounding, right? And that relies on two things, money and time. And every single time you get a great new idea and switch things up, you're basically kicking the legs out from under the most powerful part of that equation, time. You are resetting the clock to zero.
Just look at this chart. It shows you the staggering cost. When you stick to one good enough plan, you get that beautiful, uninterrupted growth over decades. But what about constantly switching, chasing the latest hot tip? Well, that just shatters your momentum, resets the clock again and again, and racks up a ton of fees and taxes. That endless search for a slightly better return ends up costing you almost everything.
Okay, so how do we escape this trap? Well, the good news is the answer isn't be smarter, it's build a better system. So here's your playbook for protecting your progress.
All right, strategy number one, and this is probably the most powerful one. Create a default system that just runs on its own. Automate your investing. Set up fixed contributions to go out every single month, no matter what. Decide on a simple, long-term asset allocation. The goal here is to make consistency the easiest possible choice by taking you and your constant tinkering out of the equation.
Now, this next strategy is going to feel totally wrong, but trust me, it's absolutely crucial. You have to intentionally cut back on information. Get off the daily roller coaster of market news. Unsubscribe from all those newsletters pitching the next big thing. Before you dive into any financial content, just ask yourself one question. Is this new piece of info really going to change my 20-year plan? If the answer is no, just ignore it. Protecting your focus is so much more valuable than being informed.
And you see, this all requires a huge mental shift.
You have to completely redefine what progress actually looks like. It's not about learning a new strategy. It's not about reading another book. Real progress? That's just the number of months in a row you've stuck to your simple, even boring automated system.
So I'm going to leave you with this thought. The next time you feel that urge to dive down another financial rabbit hole, just stop. Reframe the question. Don't ask, what new thing can I learn? Instead, ask yourself, what simple system can I follow long enough for compounding to finally do its magic? Because in the long run, the wealthiest investor isn't the one who knew the most, it's the one who strayed the least.